Hi, my name is Jacob Gonzalez, and I'm here to persuade you why we should be using death row inmates as test subjects for our vaccinations instead of animals. When it comes to safety for our vaccinations and medicines that we use in our everyday life, not a lot of people think about how the creator of the medicine or vaccine is making sure the product they're trying to promote is safe for human use. Another thing that people do not think about is what these products are tested on. For those who do not know or do not think about it, our medicines and vaccinations that we consume or inject into our bodies are first tested on animals in a laboratory. I do not know how you feel about this, but I find it uncomforting knowing that something that I am consuming to help me feel better or prevent an illness is being used on an animal who does not have the same immune system as me and does not have the same reaction as me or any other human being. This is why I see using inmates who are waiting on death row as the best option for the so-called test subjects for our medicines and vaccinations as the best option. The first argument that people think of when it comes to animal testing is monkeys. Monkeys reportedly share 99% of our genetics, so it makes perfect sense that monkeys be used as replacement for humans as test subjects. There was a drug in the mid-1950s that helped expecting mothers with morning sickness and vomiting. The drug was called thalidomide. The drug was reportedly used on numerous amounts of animals, and there were strains of animals that had died, but not enough to be considered dangerous. According to animalfriendscroatia.com, in the years between 1950 and 1960, more than 10,000 babies were born with a condition called phocomelia. These babies were often referred to as flipper babies because their arms and legs seemed almost as flippers. The birth defect was related back to the morning sickness drug called thalidomide. The birth defect was caused because of the differences in human fetus and the fetus of the animals that were the test subjects. This is one factor that proves animal testing is not the best option for studies. The use of inmates on death row is the best option for testing. Another point is when I first came to Simpson, I considered myself a religious person. But coming to this institution furthered my understanding of what it means to be a Christian and having a relationship with God. There are numerous verses in the Bible that speak of caring for your animals and that only the wicked harm their animals. There are also verses that speak that man has dominion over all organisms over the earth. Most who are for animal testing see the verse Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, and God said, "Let them," human beings, "have dominion over all the animals." Those who support animal testing continually refer to this verse when defending their standpoint. A verse that rebukes that way of thinking is Proverbs chapter 12 verse 10, stating that the righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. This verse is reinstating that the fact that all men should take care of their animals just as God takes care of us and watches out for us as his own animals and his own flock of sheep. He does not want the acts of the wicked to be taken as nice because the goal and intentions of the wicked is still wicked in the end. The ways of the wicked testing animals should not be held lightly. This is why inmates who are on death row and have no possibility of getting off should be used for clinical testing instead of the animals that God has given us dominion over to protect and use to feed and better our bodies. Not everyone knows that death row inmates wait between 10 and 20 years when awaiting their death trial. And in those 10 and 20 years, they're placed in solitary confinement. In their solitary confinement, their brains go to mush. According to the Baltimore Sun, when inmates are executed, they are injected with substances that induce a painless death. The fact that inmates are waiting in their cells and experience more pain in their cells than they are during their death is another reason why we should use death row inmates for clinical testing. This proposal may seem cruel and harsh to many people, but if you think about it, it's saving the inmates themselves from the mind game that they play with themselves and kill themselves in their cells. It's saving lives just as the babies in the 1950s and 1960s because of the differences in the fetuses. And lastly, and the most important one, is that God gave us these animals to have dominion over and to better ourselves and our bodies, not to test them and torture them and hurt them. Thank you.